The Awakening is a 2011 British supernatural drama film directed by Nick Murphy. The film stars Rebecca Hall as a writer and ghost hunter who investigates a haunting at a boys' boarding school in post-World War I England. The cast includes Dominique West, Isaac Hempstead-Bride, and Imelda Spanton. Florence Kofka is a published author who works with the police to expose the spiritualists. It is revealed that she lost her fiancé in World War I and hunts ghosts in an attempt to bring him back. The film opens with a séance, where a table with a large number of people can be seen attending the session. After a seemingly frightening act, Florence uncovers the trick of the act, exposing the con artists. She is visited by Robert Mallory, a teacher at a boys' boarding school in Cumbria. It had been a private home for up to 20 years. Robert explains that there have been sightings of a boy's ghost at the school, and that such a sighting could have been the cause of a student's recent death. Although Florence initially refuses to help Robert investigate, her concern for the children at the boarding school, whom she describes as almost orphans, causes her to change her mind for the simple reason that Florence is an orphan herself. It's remarkable when Florence arrives home and is deeply captivated by a painting there. It could be two things, either the painting brought back memories or she's a fan of art. It doesn't seem like it, but Florence carries a lot of equipment with her. Cameras, bells, powders, chemicals both for the camera and for sprinkling on the floor and windows, as a way to capture fingerprints, some kind of pressure detector, among other gadgets that can be seen there. At school, she meets Maud Hill, the housekeeper, who tells Florence that she has read her books. After conducting an investigation on her first night at school and after setting various traps to catch a ghost, or someone living pretending to be a ghost, Florence discovers that the sightings are the result of a prank by the children, since two students had intimidated one of them into dressing up as a ghost. She discovers the culprit who had infiltrated the school to scare her, checking the students' feet with a lamp until she found the one whose feet were glowing from having walked barefoot and having been impregnated with an ice cream that she had previously scattered around the room where the ghost boy supposedly appeared. It's worth mentioning that among the traps were cameras, like Ghostbusters use today, a very old method, still used today, although the equipment used is more modern. Malcolm is a school teacher and seems to have served in the army with Robert. He believes children need to face their fears, and only then can they grow into strong men. While he may have the right intentions, his methods are very crude, using violence. You know, letters come in with literal blood. When one of the children, Walter, begins to claim that he has seen a ghost, Malcolm decides that he will toughen him up by leaving him alone. Unfortunately, Walter suffers an asthma attack. He dies in fear and guilt. Malcolm does not reveal this, and thus the myth is created that a ghost caused the death of a child. But Florence detected Malcolm's salve, and upon inspecting the crime scene, she noticed a certain characteristic smell on the handles and Walter's teddy bear in the classroom. Professor Malcolm's salve concludes with evidence that Malcolm snatched the bear from Walter and left him alone in the dark, causing him to have an asthma attack. Robert asks Malcolm to leave the school before Walter's parents arrive. Florence is disappointed because this also turned out to be a case of a prank and there is no ghost involved. Then the school closes for half-term, and the only occupants are Florence, Robert, Maud, and Tom, a student whose parents live in India. Walking through the courtyard, Florence notices the gardener, who has been staring at them a lot. She notices Robert and his expression as he looks at the gardener, so she can't help but ask Robert if he doesn't like the gardener. Robert confirms this. The gardener isn't someone you'd like to be sympathetic about. He pretended to be ill so he wouldn't have to go to war. Among other things, he made Robert feel somewhat repulsive. Her work done, Florence prepares to leave. In the lake, she drops her cigarette case, which belonged to her late fiancé. As she reaches for it, a hand catches it from the water, unsteadies it, but then drops into the lake. Unfortunately for her, Robert appears and rescues her. Although Florence claims it was an accident, he and Maud are deeply concerned about her mental health. In fact, Florence decides to stay at school. Florence carries the cigarette case, perhaps representing the guilt she feels for having broken up with her boyfriend in a cruel way, saying she didn't love him. Afterward, he died, and she took this to the grave. Perhaps this is why she investigates ghosts, not so much to uncover con artists, but to find a real ghost, and perhaps that ghost is her ex-fiancé. This kind of situation happens quite often with couples who are about to get married. Suddenly, she ends it, and everything is over. Then she waits for everything to go back to normal, but that's no longer possible, and unfortunately, in this case, the boy dies. For this reason, Florence jumps into the lake to die. Her guilty conscience was literally killing her. Florence was apparently a bit of a pervert. While taking a bath in her room, she noticed a hole that allowed her to see into Robert's bedroom, and there she was able to observe Robert naked and the marks on his body. She observed Robert inflicting wounds on himself with something sharp and then treating himself, disinfecting the wounds. This obviously caused her pain, and she couldn't help but scream. Florence has visions of a man shooting her with a shotgun. She also hears a child calling her. At one point, Florence hears many strange noises and runs to see what's happening, but sees nothing. She becomes enraged and yells at Tom, accusing him of pulling all these pranks to annoy her. Afterward, Florence becomes completely unhinged. She goes to her room and destroys the pillows, finding her ex-fiancé's cigarette case inside. We see a scene that is perhaps the only film to feature it, something very rare. One of her cameras takes a photograph of a child with a disfigured face. She and Robert watch it and cannot contain their emotion, whereas in other films this usually causes fear or terror, but not fascination or excitement. So little by little, your mind is immersed in a ghostly atmosphere, and the lucid and equable Florence reveals her true colors. He goes from someone with a scientific appearance who doesn't believe in ghosts and chases spiritualists to someone who is shocked by paranormal activity. The hallucinations were what terrified her the most and caused her the most imbalance. Seeing a man with a shotgun walking around the house, shooting, was definitely too intimidating, not to mention the real thing. But after these scenes, alongside a male figure like Robert, Florence and Robert had intimate relations, full of adrenaline. The two lovers couldn't stop their sexual desires and let loose on each other. Unconcerned about whether anyone was watching them, they just let themselves be carried away by their instincts, full of adrenaline and desire. Besides, no one doubts that scary situations are a good aphrodisiac, but on the other hand, being so attentive, consumed by their intimate desires, made them neglect the outside world. They didn't pay attention to who was watching them, and yes, someone was watching them. It was the gardener, the one Robert dislikes. One thing I found really interesting, as well as artistic on the part of the production team, were the miniature houses. There are various scenes of model houses depicting a particular scene, with scale models of people inside them. This looks very good. Florence was spending more and more time with Tom. Let's just say they were becoming very close as a family, which already sounded like a wedding, motherhood, and other things to me. Florence says her nickname was Musi, which means little white doll in an African language. She also says that her parents died from a lion attack, and that only she survived, which is why she was left an orphan. Edward the gardener, who holds a grudge against Robert for being a war hero. And at the same time, Robert reciprocates his grudge, holding a grudge for not having gone to war. This gardener gets jealous and tries to take Florence by force in the woods. Florence defends herself but is subdued, then an apparition scares Edward and Florence takes advantage to strike a fatal blow. Self-defense can be argued. Then she returns to school, all terrified and traumatized, and tells Robert, who runs away to make the body disappear and thus cover up the incident. And in this way, he helps her. Florence asks Robert not to tell Tom about what just happened. But Robert tells her that there are no children at the school, that it was just the two of them plus the employee. She realizes that Tom is the ghost in the school. Remembering the miniature houses. That perhaps represents a work by Tom to stimulate Florence's memory so that she remembers everything. Buried memories begin to surface and she remembers that her family lived in the boarding school when it was a home. As a child, she played with Tom while her mother and father fought. Her mother complained that she was tired of seeing that bastard wandering around the house, referring to a boy. Her father responded that she should give him a son. It was clear that Florence's father wasn't very happy with her, nor with her mother, so she had an affair with someone, and she did give him a son, whom he valued more than his daughter. The fight became intense, and she saw her father shoot her mother with a shotgun. Florence hid inside the house, helped by Tom, while her father chased her, calling his little moose, aiming at her. Her father shot through the wood of a small closet, while Tom stood in the way inside, believing that Florence's father would open the door and he would stop him. Tom died. And then it's revealed that Tom was the illegitimate son of Florence's father, a half-brother. Then her father shot himself, as Florence watched. Traumatized, Florence had replaced these memories with flashbacks to a childhood in Africa. This is why the painting at the entrance to the house caught her attention and why she knew his name. Back in the present, Florence discovers that Robert can see ghosts of his friends who died in the war and comes to the conclusion that ghosts come to those who feel very alone. She also discovers that the maid was her Nana, as well as the mother of Thomas, her half-brother. Maud explains that she arranged for Florence to come to school in the first place because Tom missed her. She had to discover her origins for herself. Maud fixes some glasses of wine and gives Florence some to drink, and she drinks it too. She tells her that her intention is for the three of them to be together once more, that is, the wine was poisoned and they would soon die to join Tom. Robert arrives, and Florence asks him to fetch some medicine from her room. Robert goes immediately, but first has difficulty opening the door and then cannot find the medicine. Tom approaches Florence and tells her that they will finally be together and that he misses her very much. Florence tells Tom that his soul won't rest if he dies now. She also tells him that he can pass through floors and walls, as he isn't subject to the physical laws of the living, so she asks him to get his medicine. Tom fetches the medicine and brings it to Florence. The scene cuts to Florence hugging Tom as she fades away, raising many questions here. The next scene shows Florence walking through the school. As she leaves, she passes several adults, but none of them notice her. She almost collides with several of them and overhears them talking badly about her, but she just keeps going. Florence catches up with Robert and shares a cigarette with him. Florence explains that not being able to see ghosts isn't the same as forgetting them. She then asks Robert to tell the driver to stop at the end of the road, as she has always loved the walk and that she will see him next Saturday. The couple exchanges a kiss, and Robert watches her walk away. The film ends, but not before leaving you wondering if she is a spirit clinging to Robert. Comments: is she really alive? Or could they both be lost souls? Also, it's unknown what happened to Tom and if she still sees him. The scar and nickname Moosie, the trauma of the childhood event when her father murdered her mother and half-brother, causes Florence to block out everything she witnessed and develop an alternate past when she falls and sees a painting of a lion. So she creates a story in which her parents were killed by a lion in Africa while she is saved by the townspeople who named her Moosie. According to her, it means little white doll. She attributes the scar to something the lion gave her, a wound. After Florence's father commits suicide, she sees an image of a lion and invents this false memory. It's also quite possible that the word Moosie doesn't exist in any African language. It's all a product of Florence's mind. Now the question, is Florence dead? There are several statements that explain this. First, we have director Nick Murphy stating that she isn't dead. In his interview, Rebecca and I decide she's alive, and then she smokes and buys a car, referring to Rebecca, the actress. Second, we have what Florence is. She tells Tom when the poison starts to kill her. She says, "You're the only friend I've ever had, but if I go with you now, my soul will never be happy, and I can be happy because of you." That is, thanks to Tom, Florence met Robert and fell in love. She finally has a chance at happiness, That is, she can let go of that complex and trauma she has about her ex-fiancé and let go of her ex-fiancé. She will stop seeing Tom because she no longer feels alone. The final scene of The Awakening shows Florence happily standing in Robert's arms, sharing a cigarette. She is not a ghost, she is alive and happy, and so is Robert. Florence also speaks volumes. Not seeing them is not the same as forgetting them. As for the film's reception, there are many and varied opinions. Critics' reviews are very divided. While some give it a rating of 4 out of 5, others give it 1 or 2 out of 5. For me, the most accurate is The Guardian, which gives it a 3 out of 5 with its eerie and disturbing description, but is disappointed by its contrived ending. The ending was too contrived, not that grounded in reality, but I think that was due to the desire to instill doubt. I think endings like that sometimes improve, but in this case, I think it worsened the plot, not making it bad, just a conflicting ending. The film has a well-articulated plot, beautiful cinematography, and an excellent setting. And most importantly, the acting is good. I mean, we get good performances from everyone. But what do you think? Thank you very much for everything. Goodbye.